Yeah, I love that you say that, because that's what we started to uncover in writing this book ourselves, even though each author is a professional in the field of helping people, and many of them in and through trauma. As human beings, regardless of our profession or expertise, we still have our own things that we need to work through. And I think that was a wonderful surprise and a challenging surprise for each author moving through this book, was that as they were writing about their traumatic experience, a lot of things were coming up for them to process and to heal, transmute and let go. And that's when I discovered, I think we all discovered, the power of healing through writing your story. Now, it wasn't just through writing the story, because there was a lot of steps that we needed to take and tools we needed to use to revisit that incident and heal it, so that we could then write about it from that healed perspective, where we weren't getting lost in the story, but where we were able to get to the other side of it and find the wisdom and the life lessons and what that story gave to us, what the gift was in that story. Because I'm sure we can all, as human beings, relate to the fact that pretty much 10 out of 10, the most challenging experiences of our lives, the most horrific experience of our lives, once we've got to the other side of it, have also been the greatest gift in whatever capacity. It's always gifted us something. And I've been through many traumatic incidents in my own life. I've experienced pretty much every form of abuse, and I've had to overcome many challenges, as most human beings need to. So I can definitely speak to the power of that. So writing your story is like a first step, but actually getting the help that you need as you discover, as you're writing the story, oh goodness, there's a lot of stuff here. I get to work on what it is that's here, so that I can actually deliver the story how it's meant to be delivered, completed, fulfilled. Because the story is just one part. The fulfillment and the tying of the nice bow and adding the wisdom part is the end of the story.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have another great author on the podcast. It's exciting. And when I see an author pull out their microphone, I'm like, oh, this person is serious. And I love it. It's great. It's good. It's good to have Lainne's here on the podcast. We're going to be talking about her journey as an author. As we're recording, it's Mother's Day, everyone. So happy Mother's Day for those that are listening. And you're a mom. We really celebrate you. And Lainne has done that today with her family, which is great. Lainne, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, happy Mama Day. It's such a special day.
Right. It's good. And in true Mother's Day fashion, kickboxing was on the menu for today.
It was.
As all moms do on Mother's Day, right?
Yeah, well, being a mama is like you're kickboxing every day. You're fighting to get things done. You are strenuously moving from morning to night. Yeah, you're trying to strategize. Kickboxing is a very reflective sport to like what it is to be a human, but definitely to be a mama.
Okay, so I got to ask, how long have you been kickboxing for? This is a nice way to start a conversation.
Well, I don't really kickbox. I do the family kickboxing class with my son.
There you go. Oh, okay,
and
good.
he is into all kinds of movement, and I am too. Actually, I didn't think that I would like it, to be honest, because I'm not very confrontational and I'm not very aggressive, and it turns out that I actually love the class, and because I just started taking Tai Chi so I could learn Tai Chi swords. That's my jam.
There you go. I love it. It's great. And then on top of all that, on top of being a great mom, kickboxing classes, all that great stuff, you have time to be an author. Like, How do you squeeze that in? Where does the author part kind of show up in your life?
Well, there's time for everything. And I don't say that lightly. I worked a full-time job, built my business, single parented my neurodivergent son, continued my education, moved my body, and wrote a book.
Wow.
And that's not to say, wow, I'm so amazing. I mean, I am, yay me. I got to celebrate that. It's not to diminish myself either. But the whole point is, as I wanted to do all these things, like, okay, I want to move my body. It's really important. I want to take care of myself. I want to have the energy to do what I want to do. And I want to be around long enough to enjoy my son's life and his kid's life. So like, that's non-negotiable. I have to move my body, take care of myself. Okay, well, I have to work because I have to have like food to eat and a place to live. And as much as I've loved working and having my business be part-time, because it seemed less stressful to me. Eventually it was, no, actually, I want to work for myself full-time. I've been doing it part-time for many, 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 many years. And so how do I make that transition? How do I pivot? That's important to me. That's the next step. So, and then how do I write a book? I've been wanting to do that for 15 years. So we get in the habit of saying when I have time or I don't have time. But we always have. How I started everything was just by saying, well, I have 5 minutes. I definitely have 5 minutes. There are things called 5-minute workouts. You can start with a 5-minute workout. You can start with a 5-minute meditation. You can start by sitting down for 5 minutes and writing out in point form one chapter. You can do all of these things. And then the more I started to do that, the more I started to realize, oh, I do have the time. Then 5 minutes became 10 minutes, 10 minutes became 15 minutes, became 20 minutes. And I noticed that I had a lot more time than I thought I did. And then I could eventually get things done. And so I did. I got all of those things done.
Wow. So for you, have you always wanted to be an author, like from the early days, or is this relatively new for you?
Yeah, I have always wanted to be an author. I definitely knew since my 20s that I wanted to be an author because I love books. I consume like a book a week, whether that's like reading a physical book or listening to one. And I'll read anything from like a textbook to a fiction, nonfiction. It doesn't really matter. I really love books. I love libraries. I think my love for books really was a big part in wanting to be an author. But I think most people have a story inside of them and definitely something valuable and worth sharing.
Great. So tell us more about what you're writing. And for those that are meeting you for the first time, I'd love to introduce you as an author to our listeners. Tell us what you're up to.
Well, I have 2 books. I have completed 2 books. How to Use Hypnosis to Master Your Brain and A Bigger Mission. A Bigger Mission was just released this year. And that happened by accident, by a wonderful, happy accident. I had finished my first book. And what happens for all of you authors out there is often when you say you're an author, pretty much the most common response to that is, I've always wanted to be an author too, or I've always wanted to write a book too. And I heard that enough with this wonderful group of global professionals that I was just like, you know what? It only took me like 12 years, 15 years, something like that to write my first book. Why don't I expedite that process for everybody? So, it doesn't have to be something that is undone in your life, or it doesn't have to take you another 10, 20 years. Let's get it done. So I know how to do the process. I know how to complete it. So I'll just take you all through the process. And it's way less overwhelming to say, okay, you're responsible for a chapter than a whole book.
Yeah.
And as we do this, then you'll get the tools and the confidence to complete your own book. You'll be able to know and see yourself as an author because you'll have a completed piece. And a year later, we completed the book. Is I didn't realize all the different roles I would be taking on in that project, and it turned out to be this really wonderful development for me as helping each author to develop their story and edit it and put the whole piece together. And what that took from each amazing author, and what that took from me to help them to get that done, and to help everybody's voice be their voice and not an edited, not a distilled version of my voice. How do I keep their voices and their unique colors and tones and words? And it was so amazing, and it's such a fantastic book. It was a best-selling book, and we have a workbook coming out and the audio version coming out as well, and really, really proud of it.
That's good. How are you going to do the audio version of the book with multiple authors in their one book?
Well, we are extremely blessed. And one of the authors in our book, he is a world-class musician. He has won awards himself. He is very, very talented. And he's been showcased in movies and TV. And so he is finishing the audio portion of our book. So we have that privilege.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So beyond for the author's benefit, there's authors listening to our podcast. They are contemplating being part of a collaborative book like you've done. Beyond having your words in a chapter in a book with a bunch of other great authors, what other side benefits did you see or experience for the group in the process of writing a book and collaborating with all these great people?
Oh man, there's so many benefits. And I can't speak to the process of other group projects. I know how it worked for ours. It was really such a privilege and an honor to get to be a part of witnessing each of these amazing people's stories and helping them to bring that to life and to publish it. Because, the book is all stories of traumatic incidences that people have had in their life for the most part. And how they overcame that, how they got to the other side. And so there's some really touching stories in there. So getting to witness that and be a part of that. And also the cool thing about getting to discover how valuable it is that we each have our own voice. It was so cool that every single person's writing style and language was different, and it was all amazing. And so the benefits of that was for me, and just getting to hone and cultivate a new skill set that was definitely beneficial for me. But coming together as a group, it's really, really intimate, and it really deepened our connection and our relationship. And also just expanding on the project and what else can this be, and how can we contribute, and how can we grow, and what more can we learn when you're working with a group of people? That's possible. And so learning and honing your communication skills, and also your dreaming. What can we do, and what's possible here?
Yeah. And I just like the idea of community, because a lot of the authors I speak to in the early days of their author journey, that was writing by themselves, trying to stay motivated. And if motivation's a hard thing for you personally, it's really hard to get out there and just write, back to the 5 minutes, to start, right? But sometimes it's hard to write on your own. But when you're a part of a group and you are contributing to the group, it kind of has some built-in motivation to it. And
absolutely.
I like the idea of community. Did you have a chance to pull the authors together at any point? Have they met each other? What kind of interactions have they had?
Yeah, we all previously knew each other from a program that we were all in, but we got to know each other on a deeper level. But we're global. There are authors in Europe, authors in all over the States, and even across Canada. So I have met one of the authors in person, and I'll meet another one in June. But yeah, we do plan on connecting physically and doing more things, creating more things with the book. Moving forward, as the workbook comes out, because with everybody's story, it's because we're all specialists in our own different respects. We all work with clients to help them move through the challenges in their lives. We all do that in our unique capacity. And so with the workbook, that we have the tools that the reader could use to move through a similar challenge that they would have had. So the challenge that I spoke about in the book was the time that I got mugged. And the physical and the emotional and psychological challenge of that. And along with all the other things, so how did I find myself in a scenario in which that happened to me? It's all of the different things that we create in our lives. And then taking responsibility for that and bringing the power back to self. And what are the tools that I used to be able to move through that trauma? And I'm still working through some of it today. I had some physical damage that I didn't really notice because I was fine, as probably a lot of people can attest to. When something happens to them, they're fine. And so I ignored a big part of the healing that I needed to do. But the thing about that is it never goes away, and you always have to end up facing it. And so I'm facing different parts of it right now. But it's cool to also give, here's the story, and then here's tools that you could use if you found yourself in some kind of a similar situation and you're still looking to do some healing yourself.
When you say mugged, I'm like, wait a minute, I want to know more about that. That's why we buy the book, everyone. So that's why we're not giving away any of that story. You need to go buy the book. But I've had another compilation book of different authors come on in the past, and I've actually had the chance to meet with each of the authors for each chapter, and we did like a whole release around the book, and you got to hear the voices of everyone in the book, which was so cool because now you can go chapter to chapter to chapter, episode to episode. And we did a shorter version of the podcast, but just able to share the stories from each of the authors in the book, and it's just a kind of a neat thing to hear each story, because a lot of the people coming onto an author podcast, they're like, I've only written a chapter. Yeah. I'm not really like an author. Like I haven't written like War and Peace or something. I just wrote a chapter. But you did write. You are an author. And I want to preface that you took your thoughts, your story, and you put it into words, and now it's out there in the world. You need to celebrate that. You are an author.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for pointing that out, because it's so important. We have dreams inside of us, and we have stories to share. And going back to that, I said that at the beginning, and I'll say it again. Your story is so important. What you have to share is so valuable. And if it's a chapter, a paragraph, a poem, like whatever it is, no matter how long or short it is, that's not what determines the value of the message and the importance of the story.
So if you were to do a new book today, and myself and the listener that's listening to our episode today, we're going to be some of the contributors to your new book. What are some of the things that you would teach us as a brand new author writing a chapter in your book? What are some of the things you'd give us as some parameters, some motivation, some guidelines? How would you want us to contribute to your next product? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, in terms of like writing, like how can I start? How can I begin? How do I do it? That's the easy part. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say it's all easy. It's just, it's unfamiliar, so it feels like it's hard, but each step is not hard. It's actually easy. It's just the getting started part feels hard because you're creating a new habit. But you just word vomit. Do not edit yourself. Never edit yourself. Just start writing. And maybe you don't want to write. Great. We have all these cool tools now that we're in this, computer digital age. You can just speak and it'll go from voice to text. And you just dump it all out. Dump out all of your ideas. Don't edit anything. Don't second guess anything. Don't think about whether or not it makes any sense. Don't think about whether or not it wasn't any good, or, oh, I want to re-say that. Great, re-say it, but don't cross anything out. Just word vomit. That's what I would say over and over again. Just vomit, just vomit, just vomit. And then as you vomit, then you begin the process of refining. And refining is different than editing. You're not cutting anything out, so to speak. You're picking out the gold pieces, the pieces that are sticking out most to you right now, after you've word vomited. Oh, actually, I thought I wanted to say this story, but after I let it all out, what was underneath that was this. And I'd like to start with this, or I'd like to write about this actually instead. So you'll start to find those golden nuggets. And working with somebody is really, really helpful. To help you to refine and pull out the big parts of that. You know, I would often say to the authors, I'm like, it's just words. Like, you're just saying words. Like, we have to do more than that. We have to, like, paint the picture and tell the story. We have to be clear about what our point is. Be clear about what the message is. Be raw and authentic. With our vulnerability, if you're sharing something, not just give little strokes of color. You got to, like, saturate the canvas and make it bright and beautiful and bold. And that keeps taking practice. So keep vomiting, keep pulling out the golden nuggets, and keep refining and work with somebody. Another thing that you can do is, if you have your idea, okay, I want to write a book about dragons. I am going to write, I'm going to put, 10 chapters. 10 chapters is a good place to start. Okay, so what are the title of those 10 chapters? Dragons are magic. Dragons in Asian cultures. Cartoon dragons, like whatever the chapters are. And then underneath each chapter, make some bullet points. So if I have the cartoon dragons, okay, I can't think of any cartoons right now, but, like, I don't know, She-Ra or Care Bears, or, like 5 points underneath of that, cartoon dragons, then 5 points. So 5 points underneath each chapter. And then you will have seen, and that should take you, 5 minutes. Really doesn't take long at all. Then you will start to see the structure and form, the skeleton of your book all of a sudden is revealed to you. And then all you have to do is start writing sentences about that. Okay, a cartoon dragon, She-Ra, blah, 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 blah. Write a few sentences about that. Cartoon dragons, Care Bears, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, your chapter has taken shape in life. And again, don't edit, don't cut out, don't cross out anything. Just keep word vomiting as you're doing that. And once you've completed all of that, again, look back and look for the golden nuggets and refine.
So it sounds like a living document. So therefore, you would be living your next chapter.
Yes.
The name of my podcast. Right? You're kind of doing that, right? There we go. That was a plug right there. I love it. Okay, so one thing I find very puzzling about my wife, Jennifer, is her obsession with puzzles. There we go, that all ties together. She just loves puzzles. She could spend hours and hours. TV's on, there's something happening in the background, but she loves her puzzles. For me, I get frustrated with puzzles. I feel like they are a lot of work, and then you just put them back in the box. But she loves them. But it's all the idea of taking these things that don't look like they match, they don't fit together, and something beautiful is the result.
That's a nice analogy. I love that.
There you go. So for you, you're pulling together all these different stories, and they don't technically match.
No.
These people haven't talked in a group. They don't know each other personally. They don't hang out on the weekends together. They're all over the world. So you're taking these little puzzle pieces as the person pulling this book together and trying to create a picture for us.
Well, we did all know each other because we were in a program together.
How do you do
Exactly.
that? How do you pull that together, and how do you make it make sense? Do you give them some kind of parameters that this is kind of who the book is for, and here's the underlying thread that we're trying to pull together in the book, or do you just let them go?
Yes, like you have to have the theme so that everybody
Yeah.
can have some sort of container in which they can operate within. Otherwise, yes, it would be even more challenging because we are all unique individuals and we have our own thinking processes and our own experiences. Even one subject becomes really, really diverse when you're exploring that subject with multiple people. So absolutely, you have to have some kind of container. So like back to the dragons, like, okay, dragons, well, if I asked 100 different people, I might get 100 different answers for the subject, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yes, definitely creating a container. And then you exactly like your puzzle analogy, you start pulling together the pieces. And I had never done this before, so even I didn't know that the process would be what the process was. I just thought, oh, everybody's just going to write their story and we'll just put it together and then there you go. And no, that wasn't the process. It was there were many, many more steps, but it was really beautiful for everybody as everybody really grew and developed new skill sets through that process.
And I guess a sense of pride and accomplishment for everyone
Oh
that's
yeah.
contributed. Tell me some of the feedback that the authors, how were they different before they started writing with you in this project, and then after, as a book has come out? How are these different authors in the chapters? How are they different?
Completely different. I mean, they were really blown away by the process themselves, by themselves, and by the finished product. And gosh, I've gotten really wonderful feedback from them that I again that was such a lovely gift. Like I was never anticipating that beautiful gift, and again to witness the unfolding of each author and the new qualities and characteristics that were birthed from them. And also, like coming head to head against like challenging points and like how do I navigate that? How do I take this really intimate, vulnerable story and how do I give feedback about that? And how do we draw from that and pull from that? And how do we develop it in a way that goes with the puzzle and honors who they are and their story and their writing style.
Nice. So, okay, so I want to talk about your first book as well. Before we do that, though, as far as this book, where is it available? How do people get a copy of this great collaboration book?
On Amazon, it's the best for anybody, again, who's looking to become an author and publish. There are so many different possibilities, and I bet that they're all pretty great and wonderful. And that used to be a big hurdle because you used to have to either get a publisher or if you were going to self-publish, like buy 10,000 copies of your book.
Yeah.
And
Right.
now you don't have to do that. So the easiest thing for us to do at the time, maybe it's changed, maybe it's a little different, or maybe there are other possibilities, was to self-publish on Amazon. And then it's print by demand. So every time somebody orders the book, it's printed. So that's really, really exceptional and beautiful. You can be an author. You can do it. All of the framework, all of those steps, the publication, the things that you think is going to be the biggest hurdle, that's already done. It's made easy for you.
Yeah.
So really, all you get to do is share your beautiful story. So that was so helpful from when I started writing. Because my first book, which is There Is Magic But No Magic Pill, which I've yet to publish. Like I said, that was 15 years ago at this point. There wasn't those things in place. So it was a little bit more challenging. And now I'm so grateful. as an author. And you get to be too, or you should be too, that you can do it. The hurdles have been removed. You can publish any and all of your books.
I love it. I guess the other shared benefit to everyone that writes collaborative with other authors, when you write your own book, you're your own promotion machine. You have to get out, talk about your book, and it's just an author of one talking about a book. When you write with a group of people, you have an entire group all talking about the same book. So you're getting all the support from each other promoting the same project, and there's multiple ways of being promoted then, instead of one voice.
Yes.
You got multiple voices. It's a great side benefit.
It really, really is. It helps because you will learn as you go through the process of becoming an author and publishing your book. Like that's not the end. It's a new beginning. Is exactly. So then you want people to actually know that your book exists and to buy your book. And then learning that whole process. So how do I sell this book? How do I market this book? How do I let people know that this book exists? It's a whole other beast, and you can have fun with that. You can have fun with it. You don't have to know it and learn it like the second that you've published your book. You can take your time. It can take you a year. It can take you 2 years. I was really nervous about that, thinking that it had to be right away. And it doesn't have to be. You can take your time. You can learn all of those processes. Just, take it step by step. Finish your book, celebrate. You're amazing. You did it. And then, okay, now it's learning this next process. And it's okay if you still have room to grow, and if you make mistakes, and if you don't do everything perfect, it's totally okay. It's all like a work in progress.
Yeah. So what was the motivation for you to write the first book and that project? How did that all start for you? And kind of who is that book for? What's your intent?
So my first book, There Is Magic But No Magic Pill, is more a story about like me and my life. And that's really personal to me. It's raw. And so as I just said about learning the whole process, as I was learning about the whole process, I was like, oh man, there's so much to learn. There's so much to do. I think if I'm going to learn all of these things, I'd rather do it with a book that wasn't so vulnerable and personal. I'd rather do it with a book that is more like ready for the masses. Like, how to use hypnosis to master your brain. That like what's a subject that most people are interested in? That's not about me. It's not going to be personal. It's going to be information that's valuable. So that's how I ended up writing the second book, was because I wanted to be doing that process with something that was really valuable, that I was able to offer information to people in a more general way, so that I could learn the process of how do I publish a book, and then what do I do with it thereafter.
Nice. So for authors that are listening, again, we'll jump back to them. Just your thoughts around how like, for example, we're dealing with a world full of AI and computers and all that stuff, kind of doing all the writing for people. What is the power of a person's story that a tool like an AI tool and all that other stuff, they can't duplicate? What is the power of one person's story? Why is that so important?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because some of the authors within the book tried to use AI, and right away, like they didn't tell me that they used it, but right away I was like, this is not you, and this is not good writing.
Wow. Okay. What was it that caught your attention, though?
It is, I think, and perhaps it'll change, because AI is definitely a new tool. And I have had the experience of people having used it in ways in which it was definitely useful. But it doesn't tell, there is this connection. There's a connection that you get from reading somebody's word, whether or not it's good writing or not. It's not about good writing. It's about connecting. So maybe the AI was technically good writing, but it was empty. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel connected to it. But, next to somebody's story that's not technically a good writer, I was way more interested in that story because I felt that connection. And that was my feedback, like directly, like, this is crap. Like, this is crap. This isn't you. This isn't your voice. This isn't your tone. I don't feel you. I don't feel connected. This is not a good story. And so that was really, really interesting to be able to feel the difference in just how it felt to me in my body, in my heart, in reading it. It was tangible. And so we got rid of all of that and just focus back in on their story. So I think, AI at this point anyway is better for like technical writing or helping you to create like the skeleton. Like, this is the format of this particular chapter or article or whatever it is. Now now that I have the format, I'm going to fill it in with my words. And so it's just knowing when and how to use a tool. But definitely from my experience, does not replace the heart of a human being.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be something going forward into podcasting, what I do, and to authors is what they write their book. Anybody that does content, it's going to become very plain and obvious when you take somebody who writes a book, put them up on stage, for example, and have them talk about the subject of their book. And they can't really do it clearly because they leverage the tools to help them learn their writing in the moment. When you have something personal, when your story about being mugged, that's a story that can't be duplicated by AI. They can try, but that's a story. That's a story that you own, that inside and out. You know the feelings, everything associated. You can take us in there in the moment. You can really portray that to us. And I think that's the power of being an author. And when you listen to this as a new author, to encourage you that you might say, I'm only writing a chapter in a book. You might say, my story's not that important. It's not that exciting. I don't know if anybody really would be interested. In a world where there's so much watered down content, your story rises to the top because it's yours.
Exactly.
And you own it, and you can share it in a way that makes people connect. Right?
It's so much more valuable. I love that you said that because it's easy to have like the glossed over, watered down content, and I can find that anywhere. I can Google it myself and find that, but I can't find the connection pieces, the nuances that comes exactly from the individual sharing their experience of that, and then intermixing the knowledge with the wisdom part, which is the living experience. And that is irreplaceable. Yeah,
I like it. It's so good. I love it. Okay, so I got to ask, from the name of my podcast, again, Living the Next Chapter, I like to ask my authors when they come on, what is your next chapter? I would love to know what's kind of down the road for you. What are some wishes and dreams for you and your author career as a writer? What are you envisioning for yourself?
Well, I have many more books inside of me to be birthed this year. Definitely focusing on getting the workbook out and the audiobook out for Bigger Mission. I also have a workbook for how to use hypnosis to master your brain, and potentially updating the how to use hypnosis to master your brain. However, I think it is excellent as is. It is a beginner's guide to how to use that tool and understand it a little bit more. And then, more books definitely in the future. Definitely, I get to publish How There Is Magic, But No Magic Pill. I get to publish that one likely next year, and we'll see, because there's a potential other project that's brewing over here that might take precedence, which would actually add more dimension to How There Is Magic, But No Magic Pill. So we will we'll see. But yeah, there are so many amazing things to write about, and life is so rich and full of wonderful experiences to share.
I love it. Any thought from you around podcasting at all? You sound amazing on the mic. You're a very interesting person to talk to. I would listen to your show 100%. So any idea about that? What do you think?
Thank you. That's really sweet. I love podcasts as a medium for sharing information and getting introduced to people and ideas.
Yeah.
Potentially it wouldn't be this year. This year it's about being introduced to wonderful people like you that have their own amazing podcasts, and just having fun in that space. And I could see myself wanting to, and yeah, to be determined.
Okay. Because I know a lot of great podcasters who would love to have you on their show. So being a podcast guest is great because you leverage someone else's work. Someone else is there behind the scenes doing all the things like you did for your book. You get to jump in, be the star of the show, and we get to introduce you to our community, which is great. So just guesting, I say just, but it's not just. Guesting is amazing. Yes. It's a great way to connect.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. There's something special about you and what you do that I think you could help so many people.
Thank you so much.
I want to put that out in the universe for you.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens in the future. But
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Okay, so Lainne, where do we find you? Website, social media, all that great information so we can connect with you. And then I have one more question before we leave today. But where do we go? What do we do?
It's really, really easy to find me. I was super blessed in that my website is lainne.com. LAINNE.com.
Wow.
And so you can go to my website and check out a little bit of info and book a call with me if you're interested in learning how to write your own book or work through the challenges that you're having that are keeping you from writing your book, because there's always these things that block us and stop us and get in our way. So whatever those challenges are, if you're interested in me helping you move through them, then if I have time and space available in my schedule, I can do that.
Nice. Okay, so back to your book with everyone that you've collaborated with. For someone's listening, Lainne, they've been through something pretty traumatic in their life. You mentioned what happened with you and some of what's happened with some of the authors in your book. Somebody's gone through something that's been really traumatic. It's been like a monumental moment in their life, and they keep going back to it mentally. When they have a time to think, they go there, and they want to heal in the process of writing.
Mm-hmm.
The power of writing and sharing your story to address a trauma, right? That could then help someone else who has also faced something similar, a traumatic event.
Yeah.
How powerful is it for you to sit down and write? How does that help you in your healing journey and set you up for success in the future? What's your suggestion to an author wrestling with a traumatic story and how to tell it?
Yeah, I love that you say that, because that's what we started to uncover in writing this book ourselves, even though each author is a professional in the field of helping people, and many of them in and through trauma. As human beings, regardless of our profession or expertise, we still have our own things that we need to work through. And I think that was a wonderful surprise and a challenging surprise for each author moving through this book, was that as they were writing about their traumatic experience, a lot of things were coming up for them to process and to heal, transmute and let go. And that's when I think we all discovered the power of healing through writing your story. Now, it wasn't just through writing the story, because there was a lot of steps that we needed to take and tools we needed to use to revisit that incident and heal it, so that we could then write about it from that healed perspective, where we weren't getting lost in the story, but where we were able to get to the other side of it and find the wisdom and the life lessons and what that story gave to us, what the gift was in that story, because I'm sure we can all, as human beings, relate to the fact that pretty much 10 out of 10, the most challenging experiences of our lives, the most horrific experience of our lives, once we've got to the other side of it, have also been the greatest gift in whatever capacity. It's always gifted us something. And I've been through many traumatic incidents in my own life. I've experienced pretty much every form of abuse, and I've had to overcome many challenges, as most human beings need to. So I can definitely speak to the power of that. So writing your story is like a first step, but actually getting the help that you need as you discover as you're writing the story. Oh goodness. There's a lot of stuff here. I get to work on what it is that's here so that I can actually deliver the story how it's meant to be delivered, completed, fulfilled. Because the story is just one part. The fulfillment and the tying of the nice bow and adding the wisdom part is the end of the story.
Writing your story can transform your life as the author and can transform your audience's life as they read. Yeah. So it has an amazing impact on both sides of the paper.
Yes, when you can see yourself in that. That's how I did that. Those were the beginning steps a lot in my journey, was, wow, somebody else has experienced something similar and they're on the other side now. If they can do it, I can do it. The inspiration, the guiding light, the lighthouse, whatever you want to call it, that's what you become as you share your story. You let other people know that it's okay. It happened to me too. And 2, there is another side. And 3, there's a gift here.
Yeah.
And 4, you matter and your story matters and sharing it matters because of all those reasons.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
There you go. I love it. Awesome. Lainne, thank you so much for doing this, taking part of your day on Mother's Day to talk with us and share your story and all the things you're up to. It's amazing. It's fascinating to listen to you and hear your thoughts. It's great. And I'm sure there's many people going to reach out to you. And I do have some friends in podcasting that would love to have you on their show to talk about everything you're doing. So thank you for being here, making time for all of us. I really appreciate it. Everyone, Lainne.com is the website. All the information will be in the show notes as always. And I would love for you to go buy the book, leave an amazing review for this collaborative book so that all the authors get to see your amazing thoughts and your comments about what they've written. It does help, on Amazon to promote the book and help it to be shown to more people. So do more than say, great book, great authors. You can write something better than that. Put something in there that's meaningful in your review so more people will buy the book. But Lainne, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. That's a big signal to all of the players, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Spotifys, that you found value in this episode of Living the Next Chapter. Just by you listening to the end, you just sent a huge bat signal out to the app saying this was a great podcast, a great conversation. So you listening to this point, you've done your job. I have one more ask of you. If you know anyone that would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? Would you just send them a message, send them the episode, tell them about this episode, tell them to go livinginthenextchapter.com to get all the information about the podcast. Can you do that for me? Because the more people that hear this message, this episode, the better. I want to support these amazing authors. And I know you do as well. So sharing this episode really helps. And I appreciate you. See you on the next episode. And thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter.